I'm Tom Moller. This is the 94.7 FM The Word Book Club. I'm so pleased to be with Dr. Pamela Pyle, who is the author of Anticipating Heaven, and the subtitle is Spiritual Comfort and Practical Wisdom for Life's Final Chapter. And Dr. Pyle, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you so much, Tom. It's a privilege to be with you and to share Anticipating Heaven with your audience. I really am greatly honored. Thank you.
Your book cover, it says this: while aspects of our closing chapter hold mystery, and boy, isn't that true, while aspects of our closing chapter hold mystery, we don't have to feel lost as we move toward it. We instead can lean on the support and wisdom of others who keep the path ahead. This book really comes from a place of your authority, your past experience.
You know, it does, but I have to say all of that is a reflection of God's work in my life and work in my journey, both initially beginning medicine as a non-believer and thankfully being chased by Jesus to the end of myself and truly having this transformational experience of knowing who I was without Jesus and who I am with Jesus. And that gave a whole new perspective to understanding my role in medicine, but also that hope that transcends anything that is earthly or scientific or medical, and the hope of anticipating heaven. And that's, you know, the one prayer that we can always ask for a miracle, and we are 100% assured when we ask to be saved that he will meet us, and that's the greatest miracle of all. So yeah, it's 35 plus years of medicine, but the most important years were those that have been with Christ.
And your book truly does portray the spiritual background, the commitment that you have to the Lord, along with your medical experience. Let me kind of tiptoe a little bit over the book so that people understand the fact that the book talks about the end of life and anticipating the end of life uh, with the Lord. Uh, you do really provide the wisdom and support described on the book cover that I just read, professionally as a
Thank you.
doctor, spiritually and relationally as a Christian. And I really want to say relationally, your relational uh, stance with your patients, you clearly portray that in the book. And
Again, I just consider it a privilege to be in the lives of patients. And have always loved people. And as a physician, it's a very unique opportunity to get to know people quickly, to be able to serve them in ways that are even just beyond medicine. Um, that's how I always tried to understand the role of the patient, and I've been a patient. So it's a quite frightening thing. And I really, in the book, enter the life of a patient from their first diagnosis, which, you know, could be at any time. And it's almost always accompanied by, if it's a serious diagnosis, a sense of chaos, a sense of fear. Even in our faith, you know, the unknown and the places we haven't journeyed before can cause a lot of anxiety. And so I wanted to give the practical advice that comes through knowledge, and knowledge has power and helps the patient navigate, well, what do I do now? Uh, what are the questions to ask? How do I get a second or third opinion? And just what to expect along the entire journey. Because I think that's one of the things that God has given me an ability to see is how hard it is for the patient and their families all along the journey. And, medicine, we don't always get that perspective. And that's just what God's given me.
And that's the beauty of what you portray in the book, and I can tell the beauty of having you involved in the person's life at the end of the journey. And you cover in the book testimonials from patients of all sorts of situations that have arisen, not just the most uh, terrible situations you can think of, but just the fear that people experience, the questions that they might have. There is a great deal of comfort and information that comes through knowledge.
That Sir Francis Bacon said knowledge is power, probably King Solomon as well. But really, there's this difference between knowledge and wisdom. And oftentimes, we can get a lot of knowledge from the internet. I call it Dr. Google. And so, what I tried to do in the book is not only teach knowledge, but the principles of discerning wisdom. And wisdom is just the ability to take the knowledge and apply it to your own personal health advocacy and know when to say yes. And often the harder thing is know when to say no. Because in medicine, especially in our current, you know, modern medical era, it is so much easier for a physician or clinician to go forward at all costs. But the cost may be greater than what the patient really wants. And so I want to equip the patient with the questions to say, is this the right test? Is the right treatment? Or is it time to say no? And there's a specific series of things that you'll know, and a lot of it is Holy Spirit driven. That I always say is something that I'm doing either for myself or my loved one who's the patient that is prolonging suffering or dying, or is it prolonging life? And there's a huge difference. Um, and God has control of that. But we just need to ask the right questions of how to discern from God and also our doctors.
That really stood out to me. Questions to ask. I I think I'm correct. Are most people like me? They just kind of make decisions as they get there, where, instead of is, uh, is that
You know, there is a traditional element of um, a respect for the medical field that, if I'm being told this, then that is the best option. But in current circumstances, there are so many external forces that drive the decision making of a physician uh, in terms of recommending what to do next. And that's why, I mean, we all have to be our own best health advocates And the best way to do that is to know the questions to ask. And to really, if you're not getting the time you need with the clinician, then just say, can I schedule another time to get all of my questions answered? Because I want to make the right decision. And there's not an over under authority position from physician to patient, and you shouldn't feel like there is. So, but you'll have to speak up. And that's just the reality. And especially for my generation, which is your generation, is we just tend to like go along with whatever we're told when it comes to that medical experience. And I'm not saying we're being told things that are wrong, but we're not possibly being told all the things that we can help make a good decision for us.
And you get very specific in your book about questions to ask, and when you feel like you're not satisfied with the questions you're getting, when you need another opinion or whatever, you go beyond the standard end of life arrangements in the book, like medical power of attorney and formalized directives such as do not resuscitate. You really get specific in a whole range of possibilities from just the uh, things that wouldn't be looked at as crucial, that you would just sort of put up with, to the possibilities of really some heavy duty stuff. And it's all in your book. It's all in your book. And
And the book's not
appreciate
that long.
Yeah.
I wanted, I probably could have said so much more, but I really wanted to make it as readable. It's told with patient stories because that's the reality of the patient experience. And I feel like I learned so much from my patients through the years, and that helped me be a better doctor. It helped me be a better person. And certainly I learned a lot about faith from my patients.
Mhm.
But there are some extreme nuances that will help you make any decision in any clinical setting. And I really wanted to be specific about those because I felt like God called me to write this book. I didn't start out, to be an author by any, you know, sense of the word other than a patient experience was a method that he used to call me to write this. And in truth, as Christians in particular, you know, we're told we're healed by faith. And um, the issue with that is, yes, we are healed by faith, but sometimes our healing is really when we're delivered to our destination.
Mhm.
Um, and oftentimes I've seen where a patient feels they're not getting healed is due to a lack of their faith, or family members will say, well, uh, so and so's not believing enough, and that's
Mhm.
why they're not getting healed. And it's so harmful. Uh, so we have to be mindful of the theology around God's plan for our life, and that our days are numbered. Um, and the truth is, even Lazarus died after he was brought back from the grave. So we all have an ending, an earthly ending, but it's really an ending of a place that is dying. And then we get to enter a place that is full of life.
The book is Anticipating Heaven. Dr. Pamela Pyle, my guest here on the book club, Spiritual Comfort and Practical Wisdom for Life's Final Chapters. The first section of the book, Pamela, talks about preparing your plan, and you had mentioned There can be uh, extreme nuances, but there are also the beginning of the. I mean, I'm 82 years old. I've been thinking a little bit about anticipating heaven, but I'm in
Mm.
good health, and yet just by age, I've got to be in that anticipatory position. But if something comes along that's more extreme, you really can. This first part of your book, preparing your plan, it helps you be ready for any, whether it's extreme or not so extreme.
And this is the way I want your audience to look at planning is we don't know what tomorrow holds. And you're 82 and healthy, and I am 63 and healthy. But tomorrow may be a different circumstance, and tragedies occur all the time. So when I say last chapter, our last chapter could be today or 20 years from now, we don't know. But there are certain aspects of building a plan that really should occur over time. And there's an advanced care plan which directs healthcare for the very ending. But there's also other planning. And in the back of the book, one of the resources is called the Planning for Peace Checklist. And that really is all the things that we might not even think about in addition to our health. In fact, my website, you can go and download a free resource, entire Planning for Peace checklist. And it's things from wills to giving wills to our pets, digital death, because we all have a digital imprint now on the internet. And it takes time. And so I would suggest planning begins really anytime and
Mm.
start today, regardless of how you feel or your age or what you're thinking tomorrow holds.
You mentioned pets. I never thought about that. My mother-in-law's dog. My mother-in-law died several years ago at 102. Uh, and we still have her dog. Uh, and and there was a time that we were concerned that the dog was going to die before she did, but he's still with us, and she has gone on. But the dog is a very tangible reminder in my wife's life, a tangible reminder of her
Hmm.
mother. So, uh, yeah, you're right.
Wonderful.
You're right. Absolutely. Uh, so preparing your plan, you in the book cover it talks about the mystery ahead, and certainly it's a mystery. You're planning for a mystery. You're planning with various eventualities that may or may not take place, and I certainly agree with you. But as an old guy now, um, I read some months ago that my number one mission in the rest of my life really is to be cognizant of my health, um, rather than just well, I'm healthy, I work out, I eat well, I'll do fine. The plan, whether you're 82 like I am, or you know maybe in your 30s and 40s, you should have a plan.
You should have a plan, but I would disagree that your number one mission is your health because um, your number one mission has probably been your number one mission your entire life, which is sharing Jesus
Yeah, true.
in any way that you can. And I'll tell you that when it comes to the plan, when you don't know what to do, ask for two doctors' opinions. That's kind of a basic principle.
Mhm.
But I also want to encourage your listeners, and this is from, decades of being with patients as they're making decisions and then as they're facing their very end. And there is such an opportunity for evangelism uh, and worship as you enter those days, and that's something that doesn't have to be a mystery. But also, I can promise you, uh, as a witness to the believer's dying journey, is that the closer the end comes, the more peace that the patient develops. And it's harder on families uh, for someone to die than it is for the patient. They begin to look heavenward as, the weeks become days. And then there are times at the very end, it's almost like a thinning of the veil, like Stephen in the book of Acts, where they see heaven and they're describing it, or they see Jesus, or they see someone who's gone before. And it's really an amazing and incredibly encouraging as a believer to watch the believer go home. And so, wherever you are in that journey, if you're listening, it's beautiful. It's beautiful. And we have so many promises of heaven to look forward to.
And that's a perfect entree to talk about the second part of your book, Preparing Your Mind, Heart, and Soul, the second section of the book. And it also includes an in-depth testimony and plan of salvation. You tell your own testimony, your husband's testimony, your testimony, and just a tremendous sermon with a plan of plan of salvation. And so tell us about that second part of the book.
Well, when it's preparing your mind, there's so many emotions that patients go through as they journey um, through an illness. And, that fear that I talked about when you first get a diagnosis, a lot of the things that I try to help alleviate is the fears that can that can be um, sorry if you heard that, the fears that can be overcome by knowing that things that you're worried about can be cared for, such as pain or anxiety or shortness of breath, the things that we haven't done dying before. So, so that is the mystery that I really help expel. And then, what I call the most important preparation, and it's one of the reasons I call the book uh, a book about the gospel, uniquely designed as a medical resource book, is I have failed at everything I've done if I've not pointed to Jesus. Um, and I just really wanted to make it very clear what the gospel was. And I love Billy Graham's, you know, evangelism style, and he very direct, and he would say, "Are you prepared to die?" And even for some that may be in church or maybe not in church, and they had considered themselves Christian, I just asked them that if you have any doubt, let today be your day, let now be your time. And it's very simple prayer, of asking the Lord for forgiveness, which repentance, remembering that He is our Lord and Savior, and calling on His name. And that's what He did for me, and it just was so transformative and spectacular. I want to make everyone sure that they have their date and their time. It doesn't hurt to pray a second time. It could tell you that. So that's why I kind of go into that story, and really my time in Rwanda and the stories through the gospel through a child's eyes.
And you brought up your time in Rwanda. We've got maybe just a couple more minutes, but tell us a little bit about your time in Rwanda and how that kind of ties in with the work that you are doing medically and the spiritual uh, component of your work.
And so I went to Rwanda in 2009 for the first time, and I've been probably 50 times since. God really spoke to me clearly and said, "This is your place and your purpose." That's not changed, even though He's given me additional purposes. But it was, I thought, to build a clinic. God's plan was a hospital. And I serve alongside with Africa New Life Ministries that we plant churches, educate children, have seminary, and take care of medical needs in the villages throughout Rwanda and in the capital. And it is my greatest pleasure and joy to serve there. I just love it.
And I also would like for you to tell a little bit about drpamela.com. You said that there's resources available, and I want to call attention to your website.
Thank you. It is drpamela.com, drpamela.com. There's many free resources from healthy longevity, and that's, taking care of your health now, to how to be independent as long as possible, to planning ahead, and then what to do when you do get a serious diagnosis. And um, I have a blog there, or I really would love if you'd sign up for the newsletter, because I send a weekly newsletter. It's not too long to read, but it's a lot about encouragement. And it's encouragement from the Lord, and from patients that I've seen that just have so much wisdom for all of us.
I think that in the course of what we've talked about, inherently, we discussed just by the interaction what you would like to see, how this book should be used. But in closing, I know in the first chapter you say, "Here's how I suggest you use this book." Tell our audience what they will get from the book, and if they use it the way that you hope that they do.
One, regardless of your health status, regardless of your age, regardless if you have thought about mortality or not, I'll say that understanding death brings clarity to life, and that brings each day for me it's joy, and appreciation. But the book, if you read it as more of a, I'm going to read through this entire time, you'll pick up the things that you can do now, and then you'll put it on the shelf until someone needs it, or perhaps you need it in the future. And you will have that to go back and consider as a resource, because it really is timeless principles that help you make decisions.
And God help us all to run into a healthcare worker, not only at the end of our lives, but throughout our medical visits, with the kind of personal touch, spiritual touch that you bring to your patients. I can see that on every page of your book, and the patients who you come in contact with are very blessed by God. I want to tell you that, Pamela.
You know what? Thank you so much. Like I said, it's a privilege, and I have felt incredibly blessed to be in their lives.
The book is Anticipating Heaven: Spiritual Comfort and Practical Wisdom for Life's Final Chapters. Dr. Pamela Pyle. Thanks for being with us. This is the 94.7 FM, The Word Book Club. You can click a link here at the video, and you can buy the book. And Pamela, tell us also where else people can get the book.
You know, all the major bookstores and our friendly Amazon is very available there. And I also want to make a note that if you have a personal question, I have a contact me, and that is something that goes directly to my personal email. So um, I'm open to that kind of discussion if something speaks to you about the book or your personal circumstance.
Great. Well, God bless you, Pamela, and your work. I appreciate so much speaking with you.
Thank you very much. It's a pleasure.
Join me weekday mornings at 94.7 FM The Word. I introduce the teaching features weekday mornings from 6 to 10 and give you the traffic and the weather. And then I'll be talking and urging people to look at this book because everybody needs it, frankly. Everybody needs this book, Anticipating Heaven: Spiritual Comfort and Practical Wisdom for Life's Final Chapter. I'm Tom Moller. Thank you for being with us here on the 94.7 FM, The Word Book Club.